Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a story that fundamentally shaped global commerce, power, and finance. Imagine the early 17th century, a world of vast oceans, uncharted territories, and unimaginable riches waiting to be discovered across distant seas. European powers were scrambling for access to exotic goods, especially the lucrative spices of the East. This intense competition laid the groundwork for an unprecedented financial experiment, forever altering how we do business. Before our main character emerged, numerous small Dutch companies, known as voorkompagnieën, were already venturing east. These early expeditions were incredibly risky, with many ships lost to storms, disease, or piracy. While profitable if successful, the ventures required massive capital and faced fierce competition from Portuguese traders already entrenched from the Spice Islands. It was clear that a more unified, larger-scale approach was desperately needed to truly dominate the lucrative Asian markets. The Dutch States General, recognizing the immense potential and the fragmented nature of these ventures, intervened. Their vision was bold: consolidate these competing companies into one colossal entity. The goal was to create a single, powerful corporation capable of commanding the resources necessary to establish a monopoly over the highly sought-after Asian spice trade. This strategic move was not just about profit, it was about national economic supremacy and projecting Dutch power globally. And so, in 1602, the Verenigde Oost-Indische Company, or VOC, the Dutch East India Company, was born. It was not merely a trading company, it was granted a 21-year monopoly by the Dutch government on all East Indies trade. This charter bestowed upon it quasi-governmental powers, including the right to build forts, maintain armies, sign treaties, and even wage war. This was something truly unprecedented, establishing the VOC as an independent economic and military force. What truly set the VOC apart was its groundbreaking financial structure. Unlike previous ventures which funded single voyages, the VOC raised permanent capital by selling shares to the public. These shares represented a stake in the company's ongoing profits, not just one expedition. This innovation transformed fundraising, allowing for sustained, large-scale operations. It also gave ordinary citizens, from merchants to artisans, a chance to invest in the promise of distant riches, creating the world's first true publicly traded company.
Another revolutionary concept introduced by the VOC was limited liability. Investors were only responsible for the amount they invested. Their personal assets were protected if the company failed. This dramatically reduced the risk for individuals, encouraging more people to invest larger sums. By mitigating personal financial exposure, limited liability unlocked unprecedented capital, attracting a wider range of investors and fueling the company's ambitious global expansion plans. It was a game-changer for large-scale enterprise. With its innovative financial instruments, Amsterdam rapidly emerged as the financial capital of the world. The Amsterdam Stock Exchange, or Beurs, became the epicenter of global commerce, where VOC shares were actively bought and sold, sometimes with frenzied speculation. This created a vibrant ecosystem of brokers, financiers, and speculators, all eager to profit from the company's fortunes. The city itself prospered immensely, its canals filled with ships, its warehouses overflowing with exotic goods, and its citizens enjoying newfound wealth. The primary driver of the VOC's early voyages was the insatiable European demand for spices. Nutmeg, mace, and cloves, native to the Moluccas, the legendary Spice Islands, were worth their weight in gold. They were not just for flavoring food, they were used as medicines, preservatives, and symbols of status. Gaining a monopoly over these precious commodities meant controlling an incredibly profitable trade, justifying the enormous investments and risks involved in securing these distant sources. Enter John Peter Zoon Cohen, a pivotal figure who became Governor General of the VOC in 1614. Cohen was a ruthless visionary, instrumental in establishing the VOC's physical presence in Asia. He believed that trade could only be secured through military might and direct control, not just by peaceful negotiation. His aggressive policies laid the groundwork for a vast colonial empire, ensuring the VOC's dominance, but often through brutal force and exploitation of local populations. Cohen's most significant achievement was the establishment of Batavia, modern-day Jakarta, on the island of Java. He conquered the local port city of Jayakarta in 1619, razed it, and built Batavia from scratch as the VOC's administrative and trade headquarters in Asia. This strategic hub provided a secure base for operations, a place to store goods, repair ships, and coordinate military actions, cementing the company's power in the East Indies for centuries to come.
One of the darkest chapters in VOC history is the massacre on the Banda Islands in 1621. To secure a complete monopoly over nutmeg production, Jan Pieterszoon Cohn orchestrated the near-total extermination of the indigenous Bandanese population. Those who weren't killed were enslaved, and the islands were repopulated with Dutch colonists and slaves to cultivate nutmeg for the VOC. This brutal act highlights the ruthless lengths to which the company would go for profit. With its own armies, navies, and the authority to sign treaties, the VOC truly functioned as a quasi-state in Asia. It commanded a military force larger than many European nations, allowing it to dictate terms, conquer territories, and enforce its will. The company governed vast swaths of land, collected taxes, administered justice, and even minted its own coins. This blurred the lines between private enterprise and sovereign power, creating an empire within an empire. Beyond spices, the VOC quickly diversified its trade. Its ships crisscrossed the globe, transporting tea, coffee, silk, porcelain, and textiles from Asia to Europe. They also facilitated intra-Asian trade, connecting different markets and generating additional revenue. This intricate network of trade routes and outposts created an incredibly complex logistical operation, cementing the VOC's position as the undisputed powerhouse of global commerce for over a century. Life for VOC employees was a brutal mix of opportunity and danger. Sailors, soldiers, and administrators faced long, arduous voyages, tropical diseases, and constant threats from rival powers and hostile locals. Many never returned. Yet the promise of wealth and adventure drew thousands. For those who survived and prospered, the VOC offered a path to immense fortune and social advancement, though often at great personal cost and through participation in colonial exploitation. The VOC's dominance was constantly challenged. The English, in particular, were formidable rivals, establishing their own East India Company. French and Portuguese traders also vied for control, leading to frequent skirmishes and full-blown wars. These conflicts were incredibly expensive, draining the VOC's resources and manpower, even as it maintained its grip on the spice trade. The global struggle for commercial supremacy became a defining feature of the era, impacting the company's long-term stability.
Despite its immense success, the VOC was plagued by growing internal challenges. Its vast, decentralized empire made effective oversight incredibly difficult. Corruption became rampant, with employees often engaging in private trade, siphoning off company profits for personal gain. Mismanagement and inefficiency also took their toll, as the company grew too large and complex to govern effectively from Amsterdam. These internal weaknesses began to erode the very foundations of its power. As the 18th century progressed, the global economic landscape began to shift. The demand for traditional spices started to wane, while new commodities like tea, coffee, and sugar grew in popularity. While the VOC had diversified, it struggled to adapt quickly enough to these changing market dynamics. Its rigid monopoly structure, once its greatest strength, became a hindrance, making it less agile than newer, more adaptable trading ventures emerging across Europe. A major blow came with the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War, fought between 1780 and 1784. This conflict severely disrupted Dutch trade, leading to heavy losses of ships and cargo. British naval superiority crippled the VOC's ability to maintain its trade routes and defend its distant outposts. The war exposed the company's military vulnerabilities and inflicted catastrophic financial damage, accelerating its already precarious decline. It was a turning point, marking the end of Dutch naval dominance. By the late 18th century, the VOC was drowning in debt. Decades of expensive wars, rampant corruption, and declining profits had taken their toll. The company's complex accounting practices often obscured its true financial state, but the reality was undeniable. It was deeply insolvent. Shareholders, once eager for dividends, now faced the prospect of total ruin. The grand experiment in corporate power was spiraling towards an inevitable and spectacular collapse, burdened by its own weight. With the French invasion of the Netherlands in 1795, the old Dutch Republic was replaced by the Batavian Republic. This new government, influenced by revolutionary ideals, saw the bankrupt VOC as a relic of an outdated era. The Batavian Republic officially nationalized the company on the 1st of January 1796, taking over its assets, debts, and territories. This marked the formal end of the Dutch East India Company as an independent corporate entity. Despite its dark colonial legacy, the VOC pioneered fundamental aspects of modern capitalism. It introduced the concept of publicly traded shares, limited liability, and permanent capital, creating a blueprint for future corporations. Its sophisticated financial instruments and stock market operations laid the groundwork for today's global financial systems. The company proved that massive ventures could be funded and managed through collective investment, forever changing how commerce operates on a global scale. However, the VOC's legacy is undeniably stained by the brutal realities of colonialism. Its pursuit of profit led to widespread exploitation, violence, and the enslavement of indigenous populations. Entire communities were destroyed, cultures suppressed, and resources plundered. The economic prosperity of the Netherlands came at an unimaginable human cost in the East Indies and other colonial outposts. This uncomfortable truth remains a critical part of understanding its full historical impact. The VOC provided a template for subsequent global corporations and empires. The British East India Company, for instance, learned directly from the Dutch model, replicating its blend of commercial enterprise and political military power. The lessons, both positive and negative, from the VOC's operations influenced corporate governance, international law, and the very concept of a multinational entity. Its history is a foundational chapter in the story of global economic power. The story of the VOC serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked corporate power. When a private entity is granted sovereign rights and operates without sufficient accountability, the potential for corruption, exploitation, and moral compromise becomes immense. Its ultimate collapse underscores that even the most formidable institutions are not immune to the consequences of internal rot, external pressures, and unsustainable practices. Power without responsibility is ultimately self-destructive. Today, as we navigate a world dominated by multinational corporations with vast global reach and economic influence, the VOC's story remains profoundly relevant. It forces us to consider the ethical implications of corporate actions, the balance between profit and responsibility, and the potential for financial innovations to have both transformative and destructive consequences. The Dutch East India Company's journey from revolutionary startup to colossal ruin offers timeless insights into the complex interplay of economics, power, and human nature.